Good evening. I'm Alan Joines, Mayor of the City of Winston-Salem. It's my pleasure to call to order this August 15th meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council. And I'd like to ask the City Clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Mundy.
Present.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Thank you very much. Would you please join the City Council and me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Would you join the City Council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our Sergeant at Arms tonight is Lieutenant Ryan Phillips. Lieutenant, thank you for being with us tonight. May we have item H1, please?
Item H1, proclamation declaring September 9th through the 11th, 2022 as Carolina Cowboy Days. Whereas professional bull riding, PBR, is capitalizing on the growing popularity of bull riding with its new PBR team series and has established bull riding teams in 8 cities across the United States. And whereas Richard Childress has joined forces with the new league as the executive operator of the Carolina Cowboys professional bull riding team and has selected Winston-Salem to be the host city for the team. And whereas PBR Team Series games will be nationally televised, and as a result, the Carolina Cowboys will raise the national profile of Winston-Salem, bringing intangible benefits to our community's efforts to recruit new residents, businesses, and industry. And whereas the inaugural homestead of the Carolina Cowboys will be held September 9th, 10th, and 11th in the Lawrence Joe Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And whereas the Carolina Cowboys are organizing a 3-day festival during the homestand to be held at the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds, and this festival will be open to all residents to build goodwill and team spirit. And whereas the Carolina Cowboys recognize that the game schedule includes the anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks and are incorporating a 9/11 commemoration into their homestead to honor those who died on this infamous day. Now, therefore, I, J. Allen Joines, Mayor of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim September 9th through the 11th, 2022 as Carolina Cowboy Days and encourage citizens of Winston-Salem to support the Carolina Cowboys and to root for their success. Given under my hand and sealed this 15th day of August 2022.
Thank you. We're pleasure to have Richard Childress with us tonight and Austin Dillon, as well as other members of the Carolina Cowboys team. If you'd come up to the podium, Richard. I'm going to ask John Larson to come down as well. John's been our point person on this. Like I say, John Larson has kind of been our point person on this. We can't get him on a bull, but he's been he's helping out with this whole thing. So, Richard, on behalf of all of our citizens and the City Council, we are so delighted that you're bringing this to our city, and we really want our citizens to step up and go out and buy some tickets because we want to have a really good show when you have the Carolina Cowboys here first time. So, Richard, on behalf of the City of Winston-Salem, we're happy to present this proclamation to you, and thank you for everything you're doing.
You're here, sir. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. What an honor it is to be in front of such a great group. You know, I can remember starting out at Bowman Gray Stadium with an old $20 race car and a dream, and here I am in front of our city council. So things happen in life, but we're so honored to be in Winston-Salem and bring the PBR team series to Winston-Salem, September 9, 10, and 11. We got a lot of free stuff going on for the community. We got concerts, car shows, and Sunday we got another concert on Saturday. Sunday we will have a cowboy church. So I invite all of you to come and see it. It'll be pretty amazing. We're going to be honoring the ones we lost on 9/11. Our military, we're going to be giving away some free tickets to our military, our veterans, and so I'm just so honored to be here. You know, we picked Winston-Salem because as a little young kid running around, this was where I was raised, and coming here to see the PBR before up in Winston-Salem and going to a lot of different events at the Lawrence Joel Coliseum. Makes me proud to be able to bring all of the other states to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It's 8 different states that's being represented, and we're going to have all the cowboys. It's going to be an economic impact for our city. So thank you all, and Mayor, thank you for this, and this means a lot. We'll honor it. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, and your team. We're doubly excited, I'm sure. And I want to thank John Larson. John filled in for me a couple of times that I was not able to be there. So we're very honored that you chose Winston-Salem to be one of those 8 cities that will have this team competition. So thank you very much. Good. Oh, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yeah, I just wanted Mr. Childress and his team to know, as I said earlier, again, thank you on behalf, again, of the council, the mayor, and the citizens of Winston-Salem, that we are going to see about getting some tickets in the hands of our urban children or the children in the city from all walks of life, because most of them have never even seen anything like this. I doubt they even went, where we used to look at television. I doubt they've even taken the time to look at it on television, but I know I grew up looking at it, and I do plan to be there because I like it. So again, thank you so much for bringing this to Winston and giving us this great opportunity.
Thank you. Real quick, I'd like to recognize my grandson, Austin Dillon. He's our general manager. Jerome Davis is our coach, a world champion bull rider. And we have Tiffany Davis, who is our assistant general manager. So thank you all, and come up and
Buy some tickets, folks. Buy some tickets.
Y'all can stick around. It's going to be a great meeting.
pull the bull.
Tonight's agenda, the city council is comprised of 2 parts, the general agenda and the consent agenda. And of course, it's always the practice of this council to take the consent agenda as the first order of business. Items on this agenda have been unanimously recommended by a committee of the city council or are being submitted in accordance with established city procedure. There will be no discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be pulled from the consent agenda and considered individually. Items not removed will be enacted with one motion. We're televising the meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed on Tuesday at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, as I say each time, the copies of our agendas as well as videos of our previous meetings are always available online by just simply going to the city's website and click on the Watch Meetings Online option. Councilmembers, are there any items you want to pull from consent? Mr. Larson?
42, please.
C42, okay.
I move for the approval of the balance of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the balance of the agenda. All those in favor, please indicate by voting yes, and anyone opposed, vote no.
I vote yes, but mine's not coming up on my screen.
There it is. Okay, that's unanimous to approve the balance of the agenda. We'll go then to item C42.
Item C42, ordinance amending Chapter 6 of the City Code entitled Animals and Fowl to revise the requirements for keeping of chickens or other fowl and pigeons, recommended by Community Development Housing General Government Committee.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes, perhaps for benefit of the public, could we have a brief presentation on this?
Yes, Mr. King.
Then I have some questions.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. So this is an item to revise our standards for the keeping of chickens in Winston-Salem. So as a bit of background for the public, staff was asked to research standards around and benchmark other communities on how they handle the keeping of chickens. Probably the most prominent feature in our current ordinance is the idea that if you don't meet the current setbacks, you have to get permission from your adjacent property owners to have the chickens closer than what the setbacks allow. As we benchmarked and looked at other communities, that was kind of a rarity. And so we brought back some standards for consideration. And just to kind of summarize where this is, it would cap the maximum number of chickens at 5. That's a new feature. It would basically get rid of the provision that I just shared with you and establish a 20-foot setback that's uniform for the keeping of chickens. And then it would also, it would get rid of the requirement to get a permit in order to have chickens on your property. Those are the main features of this ordinance. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Larson, you had some questions?
Yes, I do have some questions, sort of a clarification. The ordinance is only 3 pages long, and the new ordinance will probably be a page and a half, which is much simpler and clearer. But there are 2 parts of it that do of concern to me, and one is dealing with the front end, where we've spent a lot of time talking about materials and construction forms, setbacks, and number of chickens that are allowed. All that is very clear. But what we've removed is any front-end review on the part of staff to say what's appropriate and what's not. I mean, we go to a lot of trouble on all construction sites to provide a permitting process, or at least a review by staff, to make sure that it's in conformance with the code or with the ordinances. And in this particular case, we've removed that requirement, which means that basically we're not dealing with big developers on these cases. We're dealing with individuals who want to have chickens in the yard, probably have not read the UDO, or probably have not read all the ordinances that the city has regarding this topic. And I'm a little concerned that we do not provide a clear standard up front. We're going to have trouble down the road with people not being in compliance, and then we're going to have an enforcement issue. So that's the one issue that bothers me a lot. And the second issue that with this way it's written right now is that even after we have installed these chicken yards, that the ability to enforce the code seems to be a little vague. Right now, the way the ordinance is written is that if they're not compliant, that with 2 violations over a 2-year period, that basically the chicken coop will be shut down. And I don't see anything in this code that says about the removal of chickens if they're not in conformance. And maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit about enforcement and removal of the chickens if we're not in compliance.
Go back and look. So Councilmember Larson, I'll kind of hit your first point a little bit. I think part of the thinking in removing that permitting process on the front end was to make this easier for folks to do. I see Mayor Pro Tem nodding her head. She has actually gone through this process and can kind of tell you a little bit about that. So I know when we talk to our folks who are advocates for urban food policies, they have been a big proponent of removing the barriers and making this easier to have chickens on their property. So that was a little bit of the thinking in removing the permitting piece on the front end. Again, it certainly makes a lot of sense if you're permitting a house or a permanent structure to go through a permitting process to meet building code and things of that nature, which we handle. For a chicken coop, it's a smaller kind of accessory structure. I mean, we don't do that on swing sets that are kind of elaborate in the backyard either. So that's kind of the vein in which staff kind of view that. The enforcement piece kind of falls up under the city code, and I see Angela perhaps looking in there. I don't know if Angela might have some comments on that part.
I'll be happy to comment. Normally, if there is a provision in the city code that is not criminal, a notice of violation is issued, and the property owner or the violator is given an opportunity to correct the violation. And if they don't correct the violation, then staff has the ability to abate or remove, and sometimes that requires my staff to go get a court order permitting us to enter the property to abate, remove the violation, be that the chicken or the coop or whatever the violation might be.
And whose responsibility is it for enforcement and removal of the chickens?
Community development will be the department that enforces this section of the ordinance.
Yeah. And are they responsible for the making sure that the slaughtering of chickens is well out of sight? Is that part of their code requirement?
Basically, everything in this ordinance, Councilmember Larson, the Community Development Department will be enforcing.
Enforcing that. Do we have any other provisions in this city for slaughtering of animals by individuals in the city?
I'm not aware of any off the top of my head.
I think it's unique enough that we need to be aware of it and be cognizant of what it might mean to neighbors. I'm not saying that it's not being done properly. I'm just saying that it's part of the code enforcement issue that we're going to have with this particular project. I have pretty deep concerns about our ability to enforce it. I know what's going to happen is the police are going to get the first call, and then council members are going to get the second call. And I just want to make sure that we have a good procedure in place. I don't think this ordinance provides that. I don't think it's clear at all about how we're going to actually enforce the chicken rules here.
It would be enforced basically like any other violation that's not criminal. So police wouldn't respond to this because it's not a criminal violation. So the Community Development Department would issue the NOVs and so forth.
And can I ask why?
And I say NOVs, notices of violation, I'm sorry.
Can I ask why it's community development and not inspections as in any other building project?
Historically, this section of the code has been enforced by what was then housing, now community development. Inspections only recently became involved because of the permit requirement for the coop.
Well, I remain to have serious problems with this. I'm not sure why we're doing it, but I will vote accordingly, and council will make their choice tonight.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams wanted to comment. Do we want to get a motion on the floor before we?
Move for approval, Mayor.
Second.
Item
Motion second. Mayor Pro Tem, go
C42.
ahead.
I think sometimes we have to remember the why as to why we do some of these things. Does this create revenue for the city? No. But does it create goodwill and quality of life for others? Yes. When the past Councilmember Molly Light and I got together on this back in 2000, maybe 12, 10, Mr. King, I can't remember. A lot of discussion took place because we were one of the few cities that did not allow people to have chickens if they wanted to. Again, our staff did what they do. They went out, they benchmarked, they talked to other municipalities that we are surrounded by, and everybody was doing this but us. At that time then, people were just getting a whim of food insecurity, poverty, how there are no grocery stores in poor neighborhoods in the urban core. And this allowed people to have a source of protein as well as food. Right now, with like any city in the country, we have a staff shortage. And I know people get tired of us saying it, but we're going to say it over and over again. We have a staff shortage, particularly in those areas that people tend to want to see all the time. Public safety, community development, housing, general government. I ask all of you and the public, if you have family, friends, you or anybody else that want to step up to the job, we are hiring. We need people. But right now, everything we do is based on priority. It's based on priority. And to the date, Mr. King, even Ms. Newman, I don't even think since we enacted this ordinance, it's not like the doors and the phones have been ringing off the hook about the chickens. But I do know people are concerned about the amount of chickens in the city. Again, every city has this issue. But you cannot take away something that you've given people and then tell them when it comes to like this, food, that, well, we're going to take it away from you or we're going to keep you from having it again. Because we have people who don't have to deal with hunger and food insecurity. I do want people to know that we try to answer as many code violations as we can. But again, personally, I don't have a problem with chickens running down Marlow and Polo Avenue, and I do see them all the time. It's no different than deers jumping across my yard every day, front, back, and side. But I just asked the council, like I asked before, this is not an issue, a big issue. This is no different than people just not wanting something because they don't like it, they don't like the noise. You know, we never allowed them to have roosters, but there are roosters. And it's also based on a demographic and culture thing. So I just ask everybody to understand where we are in the world right now. This is not Winston-Salem where everybody is quiet and nobody sees a chicken. You're gonna see chickens. But like I told council member, all the council members, you know, I'm one of the first. I went through the process. I can't have my chickens because of the way the ordinance is written. And did I have it changed because of this? No. I was hoping the process would play out by itself and maybe somebody else would do something. But, you know, if I see a chicken loose, and I've made that clear to my neighborhood association, I know how to grab them and I know how to put them in a pot. So with that, Mayor, thank you very much for
Thank
this.
you. Councilmember Mundy?
I'm in favor of the change in the ordinance. I'm in favor of making this easier for citizens, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we do have a communications plan to let the citizens know about this, and that should also include a Spanish-speaking communications plan, because I would guess that a lot of the people in the city who are going to want chickens or would benefit from this would be Spanish speakers.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, we do have a motion to approve this item. All those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no.
I can't vote.
And the motion passes in voting of 6-2. Councilmember Burke and Councilmember Larson voting no. All right, and then we'll now go to the general agenda, which is comprised of the following items. There's an item confirming the assessment role for the demolition of housing unfit for human habitation. There's two street closing petitions, an item related to a funding commitment to Winston Starts, an item related to funding a multi-year housing plan, an item fixing the date for a public hearing on a street closing, as well as the public comments session. And we do need a closed session after the regular meeting. The assessment roll and street closing items are listed as public hearings. When these hearings are called, persons in the council chamber who would like to speak will be called on and given an opportunity to speak. If you are going to speak, if you would give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. If no one wishes to speak, I'll close the public hearing and the city council will consider the item. The public comment period is a time once per month that we set aside for citizens to voice their opinions on matters that are germane to city government. When this comment period is called, each speaker will be given 3 minutes for their comments, and we'll have a total of 30 minutes for the comment period. Ms. Keeney, will we have the first item, please?
Item G1, public hearing on resolution confirming assessment role, demolition of housing unfit for human habitation, recommended by Finance Committee.
Thank you. Is there anyone in council chamber who wishes to be heard on this confirming the assessment role? Seeing no one, I will declare the public hearing closed. I recognize Councilmember Clark.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Councilmember Larson.
Just one quick question. I noticed on one of the first items that this building was condemned back in 2018, 2017, five or 6 years ago now. And we're just now sort of getting the billing on it. Is this sort of typical of the process, the time it takes to take a building out and to finally get the lien against the property? Why was it so long? And
The question is, why has it taken 5 years or so to get the assessments
to get the
this point?
assessment done, exactly.
Ms. Newman here, if you could, Newman, if you would you comment on the time frame, please?
Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the council, Marla Newman, Community Development Director. In some rare occasions, we have challenges with receiving the final billing and paperwork from some of the demo contractors. And so this is one of those situations where there was a gap, and in doing some of our own internal auditing, we realized that we didn't have everything in place so that we could close out that particular demolition and get the information to finance to confirm the demolition role. Again, these are rare circumstances, but every once in a while, a contractor will forget to bill us, and like I said, we do our audits and we realize that something didn't get closed out.
So is this lien registered somewhere where if somebody were to buy this property, they'd be aware that there was in fact a, say, $17,000 lien on demolition that occurred 4 years ago?
Yes, sir.
On the property?
Yes, sir.
Where would that show up?
At the county.
Title search.
If I may, Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
the demolition ordinance that was initially adopted is recorded immediately within a couple of days after adoption by City Council in the Forsyth County Register of Deeds office. So everyone's on notice going back to whenever it was first adopted that the house was set to be demolished.
Any further discussion on this? Not all those in favor of the item, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That is approved unanimously. Thank you. Item G2.
Item G2, public hearing on petition to close and abandon a portion of an unnamed right-of-way along Townsend Drive, and notice to all persons interested in the closing thereof. Petition of Barry Siegel and Susan Carroll Beeson, recommended by Public Works Committee.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the council chamber who wishes to be heard on this particular item to abandon a portion of a unnamed right-of-way along Townsend Drive? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and this is in the East Ward, and I would recognize Councilmember Scipio if she would like to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move for approval of G2.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. Thank you, and that is unanimous. Item G3.
Item G3, public hearing on petition to close and abandon a portion of an unnamed alleyways off of West End Boulevard, and notice to all persons interested in the closing thereof. Petition of Stuart C. Parks and Greeland Holdings LLC, recommended by Public Works Committee.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the council chamber who wishes to be heard on this proposed closing and abandoning of an unnamed alley off of West End Boulevard? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and this is the Northwest Ward and also the chairman of the Public Works Committee, Councilmember McIntosh.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, please vote yes, and anyone opposed, vote no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item G4.
Item G4, consideration of items relating to a 3-year funding commitment to Winston Starts, recommended by Finance Committee with 2 in favor and 2 abstaining.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Chairman of the Finance Committee, Councilmember Clark, for a
I'll
motion.
move approval of G4.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no.
Mayor.
Oh, I'm big pardon, Mayor Pro Tem.
I know, you didn't
I knew right
see
beside me.
I want to thank the presenter for the update to the demographics, but I would also request, like I have always requested when we give incentives for economic development or anything else, that we are given reports quarterly or whatever, at least quarterly, until we get a feel of what this does, because this is new, again, to the council. Again, he said he's not an incubator, they're a scalerator, and I like that, okay?
Scalerator.
See, I read it.
All right, Councilmember Mundy.
I just have a question for clarification, and I just wonder about the wording. Resolution approving a 3-year funding commitment of $150,000. Is that annually or $50,000 over 3 years? I just think it reads ambiguously.
All right, let's make sure we're clear that it's $50,000 per year.
$50,000 per year, Mayor. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Mundy. This is a wonderful program. I think Steve and has got about 32 or 33 companies up there now, something of that nature, and it's really, really humming there. So, all those in favor of this motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no.
It was up earlier.
It's like Final Jeopardy, waiting for that.
I'm voting yes.
There it is. Well, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Item G5.
Item G5, consideration of items relating to funding for a multi-year housing plan, recommended by Finance Committee with 2 in favor and 1 opposed and 1 abstaining, recommended by Community Development Housing General Government Committee with 3 in favor and 1 opposed.
Recognize Chairman of the Housing General Government Committee, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, if she was ready for a motion.
Yes, I move that we approve item G5.
Second.
Motion second. Is there discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that passes with 6 in favor, 2 opposed. That moves now to item G6.
Item G6, resolution fixing the date for public hearing on a petition to close an abandoned portion of Torrance Drive, and notice to all persons interested in the closing thereof. Petition of John Shipley, recommended by Public Works Committee with 3 in favor and 1 excused.
Council members, we need to excuse Councilmember McIntosh from this item. If I might have a motion to excuse him.
I move that we excuse Councilmember McIntosh from voting on G6.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor of excusing Councilmember McIntosh, please indicate by voting yes. If that's possible. And that's approved, 7 in favor, and Councilmember McIntosh, of course, abstaining. And now we'll go to the actual vote on fixing this date. May I have a motion to approve this item?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second. We're setting the date for a public hearing to close and abandon the street. Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that passes with 7 in favor and Councilmember McIntosh being excused. We'll now go to item G7.
Item G7, public comment period.
Of course, this is, again, as I mentioned, a time that we invite citizens to address the city council and myself on items that are germane to city government. And we limit our comments to 3 minutes and 30 minutes total. Ms. Keeney, do we have individuals signed up? No one is signed up. Yes, sir. If you'd come forward and give your name and address for the record, please, sir. And if you'd limit your comments to 3 minutes, I appreciate it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor Joins, Madam Pro Tem Adams, and members of council. My name is Sonia Young. I abide at 1604 Longview Drive, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the matter of tree ordinances in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the fact that we do not have a tree ordinance. A tree fell on my home about 2 weeks ago, and it was not a tree on my property. When I purchased my home 20 years ago, I removed 21 trees in my backyard so that a tree would not fall on my property or the property of any of my neighbors. And so I feel as though, although there is not a tree ordinance, there should be something on the books so that all property owners would be responsible. The tree could have killed me. It fell on top of my bedroom, on top of my roof. And so I'm here on behalf of myself and all of the residents of Winston-Salem, feeling as though we should come together and compromise and have some sort of discussion on how all property owners can be responsible and liable for the trees that are on their property. Thank you.
Thank you. I would say that our city attorney might comment on that. I believe the property owners are liable.
Yes, sir. She probably should consult with a private attorney regarding a private right of action. And as you all know, as council members, the General Assembly is pretty much limited what the city can do with respect to tree ordinances. But I would encourage her to consult with a private attorney.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I would also say that if staff or the attorney's office or planning office would assist her with the materials to see where we are with the ordinance in the city and what we're required to do by the state General Assembly. And, you know, what we need to do maybe if we look at other cities, but as the attorney said, everybody thinks the city can just make what we want, but we are bound by the state General Assembly. I regret what happened to you. I think all of us have had trees to fall in our yards, on our cars during storms, but I look forward to our staff assisting you to get a better understanding, and maybe even you'll go and lobby and champion this to Raleigh. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Taylor.
Mayor, Ms. Young lives in the Southeast Ward. I just want to thank you for coming down and voicing your concerns. We had the opportunity to speak on the phone, and staff will give you some information, and we'll try to get you as much as we can to make sure you're comfortable. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Ms. Young. All right, is there anyone else in the council chamber who wishes to be heard in the public comment period? All right, seeing no one, I'll close the public comment period. We do have a need to go in closed session, and I'm going to recognize Councilmember Taylor for a motion, if I would, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Winston-Salem City Council go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A5, to provide instructions to staff regarding the acquisition of property, 1, in the Salem Creek Business Park, which is approximately 37 acres, identified as PIN 6803913210, owned by TF Properties, Inc., for the police driving range, and 2, on Klein, Light, Lyons, Hinsdale Streets, approximately 22 acres, identified as PIN 6844762823, along with 8 additional pens owned by Clyde Hinsdale heirs for affordable housing.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion second to go into closed session. All those in favor indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no.
So move.
And second.
Thank you. A motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. And we're adjourned. Thank you.